That's me. Where's the music? Let's turn you way down here. There we go. That's the music. Here I am. I'm here somewhere. There I am. Hello. Hi all. Hi everyone thank you for being here. I am Verde Arbusto, and this is the Schumann Resonance Harmonics channel on YouTube and on Facebook. And wherever people share me. So please share, like, subscribe, and tell people, your friends, about the video, this video, other video. Since I've gotten my studio here at the basement of Shangri-La fixed, I'm doing more live streams with people, and it doesn't really take much. I said this last night, I've said this in other videos. Doesn't take me that much to do the same amount of effort to make a video or a live stream. The difference between, technically, the difference between a live stream and doing a regular video is the fact that, well, the live stream, I answer questions. I interact directly with the viewers. I look at comments. I interact. Whereas when I'm doing when I'm doing a recorded video, I like that for the fact that I can just get through the material and I don't get sidetracked on anything of usually it's my own doing. So when I start out either with a live cast or I start out with the a live cast or the video, the recorded video, I started with an intention, and sometimes, largely, I try to put that up on the front so people know what I'm going to be talking about, because I'm kind of like all over the place in these. I mean, I admit that, I work to stay on topic, but it's a process. It's ever a process because there's so much going on, and so much that is outside of the realm of the Schumann resonances that I spend time actually saying this is outside of the purview of that. You know, so so I like doing both of them, both doing a live stream and the pre-recorded one where I stay much more on topic, for their own reasons, and I need both of them because there are topics that are just too dense that I just really need to make it through, and then refer to people this video over there. It's like you got to spend time with it and then ask questions on the video over there. I'll go through all of my user comments. I'm sorry, reader, member, sub comments, and I respond back. I comment back, and I want to interact with people. I need to talk with the regulars, my regulars, as it were, to find out, do you got this? Okay. Um, Not Narda. I'm reading the comments here. Narda says one of the previous videos I did, I think it was the one 2 videos ago, or maybe 3. It was talking about grounding and how to ground in the Schumann resonances and how to ground in, your energies into the planet. And on the flip side of that comes with the discussion on shielding. You shield out unwanted EMF energies, high frequencies. All right. So one of the oh my God, I'm reading the comments. One of the maybe you should do a Q&A in the future about those other side topics. Well, it depends on how side the topic is. I have spent the last year researching the Schumann resonances, and I can give you discussion on the Schumann resonances and what I have topics of related to EMF, electromagnetic frequencies. There's a range of stuff I have data for. So if it's within the range of stuff I have data for, I'm fine with talking about it. But if I don't have any data or research or topics or facts or data, I'm not talking about it. It's basically that simple. Because it amounts to dueling imaginations. Who's better able to sell their viewpoint? I'm not a big fan of the sales pitch. I need facts and data so I can kind of flip through it. I'm not a math guy. There's a lot of imaginary numbers in math and equation. I don't know how to figure out numbers that are differentials and that are functions. My imagination doesn't operate that way. So, so there's a limited amount of data that I can, and facts and statistics and whatever that I can wrap my head around. The last job I have left here is to explain the Schumann resonances to people, and I am happy to do that. There are such, let me put it to you this way. When the Buddha was asked questions about life, what happens after death, metaphysical questions, what are the angels, what's heaven like, and all of this stuff. They would ask his followers would ask the Buddha. They'd ask him, and he would be very circumspect, and he would usually not address questions of outside of the the realm of this world, the phenomenological world in which you live, right here, right now, because there is a lot right here and right now for you to have to deal with without going beyond something in the next world that you'll figure out in the next world when you finally get there. So it's the same thing. There's a world outside of what I do and what I don't do that is related to where, what the pathway in front of me is, and that's explaining the Schumann resonances. There's a lot of monkey business with that, a lot of hocus pocus, a lot of stuff, fantasy that involves just the Schumann resonances. There's enough fantasy surrounding just the Schumann resonances that I don't need to ever go outside of the Schumann resonances to find fairy tale and fiction and worlds removed from the reality of the planet Earth. I think that's the best way to put it. When we deal with like the Italians and their fabulous reading of 11,000 hertz, that is way outside of a lot of this even to be talking about, because they're talking about earthquakes, right? They are looking for earthquakes, and that's one of the things that their makes their uh, readings different than the ones at Tomsk, because Tomsk is not looking for earthquakes. They're not the land of earthquakes. They don't get crazy ass stuff over there like Greece and Turkey is getting now and all of this. So, um, that's part of what this discussion here is about, and I'm kind of bringing it back around into the clear stated intention of this of two things. One, the first thing is the observations, or a small or somewhat of a two things that my stated clear intention for this video here is two purposes. One is to discuss the observations which I had up there, and you could kind of see some of it. I was doing the final editing of it. And then there's the other issue of the falsified data from Tomsk, this narrative, false narrative of falsified data from Tomsk. All right, so that is enough of, and outside the parameter, the fairy tale fiction, um, that I want to get outside, because there's way too much going on with the other part of keeping this on track of just what's within the Schumann resonances, is that there's too much going on with the Schumann resonances that I can't really afford to get off the topic, especially when there's more than enough people who give you their unsubstantiated opinion on anything under the face of the sun, as long as it's, ascension related, whatever that means. I'm not sure, However, so this is one of the things that I'm, kind of intent on, is that I want to keep this on track of the Schumann resonances and what's related more with that, rather than something that um you know you could find someone else talking about it on. Okay, so all right, so with that said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right now give a uh going to start talking about the observations and the Schumann resonances. Okay, so this is a good point that we can start talking about. Yes, you're welcome, Christy G. I have to be honest. I can't. That's part of one of my deals here, is that you can only talk about what you can talk about. Right? There's areas that I would like to talk about, but I don't have any type of a foothold on the subject matter. I think that's a good way to put it. I have my own beliefs, but they're not within what the working of the Schumann resonances are. There's a lot that's outside of that that really needs to be kind of stated, as this is outside of a good, clean, clear reading from an antenna machine. I, if that makes sense, I have to kind of think of how I'm trying to word that, but like that's what I'm looking. The purpose of what my channel here is to give you the technical understanding and knowledge of how the Schumann resonances themselves work, but also how the antennas and the detectors pick up the signals. Right? I think it's extremely important for me personally. Here, excuse me, when I'm doing this, is to I'm a technical person. Okay, I let me just say that I'm a technical person. I'm technically minded. I like doing this anyway. I would be kind of you know, I mean, I like this for the technical part. It's radio waves, electromagnets. It's a fascinating stuff to me. Okay, so with that, I have to remember that this is not just for me. It's for also for you. And so part of my mission here is to keep this simple, but also explain a lot of you know, technical details that are even beyond me. I'll tell you the truth. So, so where I'm going with this, these observations that I have, it's kind of there's two things. One, it's a daily observation of there's two parts to this. One is a daily observation of what you're seeing here on the machine at Tomsk. All right, so the daily observations obviously are different depending on which day and all of this and what uh, whatever day and whichever one of the spectros that they're using is like, all right, so things change. It's going to be depending on hello depending on if I'm not a broken record here, depending on the machine or whatever, the readings of this will change. Like for example, they had the Italian machine in there and that was at a reading of 800, uh the 500, somewhere in there. All right. Um, so it's part of one of the things is that, know your source. And so Tomsk itself has a range that it goes up to based on what its hardware can do. So the Italian network, CIEN, which is Central Italy Electromagnetic Network, they get different readings based on what their needs are. Okay. So I've talked about this before. I've talked about this in other places. I'm continuing to talk about this for the people who have been around for a while. You understand what the all right. So I'm reading the comment here by River Girl. Hi, River Girl. It says, so the Schumann resonance expands when hit by solar flares and CMEs. How do the machines catch the resonances and separate them? The sun's electromagnetic connection hits the ionosphere then. All right. Well, these are radio waves. Okay, this is a simple way to look at it. The radio waves. If you're if you're familiar with the old dial type radio where you have AM or FM, you have shortwave, you know, depending on what you have, they're broken into wavelengths. Okay, you have to remember this about electromagnetic waves, electromagnetic radiation, that base it on the size of the wavelength. And it's actually easy to pick a frequency because it's a certain, the 1 centimeter band, exactly, 1 to 10 centimeters, then 10 centimeters to 100 centimeters, 100, they figure it out in tens. Okay. So tens of frequencies, 10, then 100, then 1000. Okay, 10 times 10 times 10. Okay. So the 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 it depends on the band of the wavelength that they're looking for, right? And you have to build antennas based on what wavelengths you're looking for. It's designed into the specifications of the antenna. And I've talked about in other shows about the technical issues of of making antennas based on the frequency range that you're looking for. All right. So in the sense that in your car you have AM FM radio depending on the amplitude modulation or the frequency modulation. The amplitude is the height, the frequency is the wavelength, the smaller wavelength. Okay. So one is kilohertz, one is megahertz. Okay. So depending on the wavelength that you're looking at, that's where you're getting the um that's how you're separating. They're not separating them. They have just built an antenna that picks a certain frequency wavelength, I think is that's like I said, they base your frequency here down on this guy here. Frequency, this is kilometers of wavelengths. Okay. And measuring electromagnetic waves, radio waves, there is always a frequency range, a wavelength, which is the kilometer or whatever, depending on which, in our case, it's the kilometer. In other cases, it's the centimeter, but it's a wavelength, and so they can filter it out. That's simple enough. The Schumann resonances don't expand. Okay. They react. Okay. I think that's a good way to put it. It It is a layer, okay, and it acts in a consistent way because it is itself a principle. It's what is the word? The waves are fundamental, but it is a consistent. There's a lot of consistent parameters to the Schumann resonances. The size and shape of the Earth, the size and shape of the insulating cavity up to the ionosphere, the general over the course of time, the consistent radiation of the sun. However, what you're talking about, CME, is a coronal mass ejection, is a big, huge mass of plasma that comes shooting off to us that is over and above the average, what you'd consider average. All right. Okay. So if you took the shape of things affect the frequency. If you took a hose and you kind of, you know, change the shape of it, like it goes at a higher velocity. Okay. And you have to remember there's a difference between velocity and frequency. A velocity is a straight line. Those are highly charged electrons, and the frequency is what comes after it, the waves. Okay, so the amplitude, the height of it comes first as a velocity, and the part that comes trailing behind it is the like the plasma. There's an initial electric discharge that comes off first, and then the plasma, the physical material of it, comes after that. So we can be much more affected by the pre-shock, the pre, I don't even know what the heck the word to call it is that you understand. It's like the bow shock of it. That is just an electric charge that lights up the ionosphere. Pshoom. Okay. It there is the majority of what happens to us, we get we get from the sun is redirected by the magnetosphere. Okay. So a lot of what comes at us from the sun is redirected from the magnetosphere. And you got to, or it's redirected around us through the magnetosphere. Okay. But when you get these blasts, it compresses the ionosphere, and that, like the hose, you take it and you kind of squeeze it like that. The same amount of water is going through, but it is providing a condensed shape that funnels the resonances to higher densities. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. The frequencies of the Schumann resonances are not increasing except 0.5 cycles per second. So the Schumann resonances only go up to 8.05. That's it. Schumann resonances, it starts at it's normally at 7.8. It would only ever go up to 8 or 8.5 at the most, but it also dips down. But fairly regularly up and down, up and down. It otherwise stays consistent at the 7.8 harmonic. That's a resonant harmonic, which stays consistent based on the waveform, the wave guide, the speed of light, and all of those things. So, um, so if you understand that, if you understood that, please leave comments in the what the heck do you call it, in the chat. Please leave comments under the video. Please leave comments. Let me know that you understood what I was just talking about, and if I can, I'll clarify it. If not, I will do better next time. All right. So the question of how much the CMEs affect the Schumann resonances is, I'll put it this way: anytime I see a spike in the amplitude, I'm looking to see solar bursts from like a few days ago, right? However, there are people who talk about they can feel the bursts coming off from the sun before it actually gets here. There are people that operate in a higher dimension that will claim that they can feel the electric impulses on a quantum level. That as soon as they burst off from the sun, it hasn't traveled through the space as you think of it. It's traveled through quantum tunneling. The sun is a portal, and the sun allows for interdimensional, intergalactic, travel. And so it's one of the things that's happening with this is people feel stuff from the sun, and not necessarily from what's happening on the Schumann, but they look at stuff that's happening on the charts, the graphs, and they're correlating something that happened before it was registered on the Schumann, and yet there it is that happened on the report. And so it's like, all right, it's not that it didn't happen, it's that it happened at a time different than what you can prove. This is very complicated. There's multiple, that's what, multiple timelines is, that you don't see it. You're actually not seeing multiple timelines here. What you're feeling is you are feeling like jet lag. You are feeling tired, bilocated, dislocated. What a bilocation is, where you're one place and you think you're somewhere else, and you're pretty sure you're somewhere else, but then it like dawns on you, wait, holy fuck, no, I'm not there. You didn't move suddenly, but you just had this other sense of like you're somewhere else, even though you're pretty sure you are where you are, and but things aren't quite lining up, and then it just snaps back into place. All right. A plasma, an actual thing, or is it a lack of a thing coupled with a plasma is one of those many splendored things. I'm going to answer the question that's there on the other chat. Plasma is a very wonderful thing. It's kind of this word that's used to describe an amorphous state, but it is held together by a undescribable force that they can't really call anything else. Okay, that's the simplest definition I can explain for plasma relative to however much it's used. Because keep in mind, within your blood, there's a plasma. It's sort of that thing, it's a neutral, connective substance that keeps it together. Different disciplines have different kind of how do I say this? The different types of, they have different types of descriptions for plasma, what it is, what it does, these kind of things. In the case here, that plasma is very much a real thing, and it is. I'm trying to think of how to describe this. That you have a collection of, everything vibrates at its own frequency, and yet you get things working together. They vibrate at a little different frequency than the thing itself. It's part of an amorphous state, an amorphous whole that is sort of formless because you've given off some of your matter. Okay. So, how can you have something that's a thing that exists as a cohesive entity that doesn't have all of its protons? Okay. I'm talking about in a kind of the scientific sense, but you kind of understand what I'm saying, that it is a thing. It's held together by an electrostatic force, but you could wave your hand through it. And yet, that electrostatic force would get on you, right? So it exists. The plasma exists as a state of attraction, but it's not a solid thing that you can knock on. Yet it is solid enough that you can feel it. All right. So you have to look at it maybe a little different perspective, that you have on the scale, it's electricity, magnetism, and then gravity. Okay. After, moves, geometry goes from ding to ding to ding like that, and then it starts curving back. When it reinforces itself, it goes around the world, it goes around the globe, and reinforces itself to a point that it's vibrating. It now has a density. Okay. And so that's what the Schumann resonances are as they go around the world and vibrate and catch up with themselves. They are now past electricity, they're past magnetism, and they've gone into the density of gravity. So it is electromagnetic gravity that you are feeling by the Schumann resonances at, say, 7.83. It's a density. Okay. So what's happening is the plasma, the highly charged plasma, which is an amorphous state that's missing a few, molecules of, or protons, it's mostly electrons, high charge as it comes in through, through our magnetosphere, the ones that can come in and get combined with the ionosphere and stick around. They kind of start building up in the ionosphere, and then they want to discharge to the Earth. Okay. So it remains a plasma type state going from the magnetosphere to the Earth and combining with what's around the Earth. There's a potential that develops of hundreds of thousands of volts, 200,000 kilometers, 200 200,000 volts, 200 kilovolts. All right. So a lot of that is forced down to us. A lot of that stuff is forced down to us, and that's what, what the it basically sparks with the ground from the ionosphere to the ground, and that's what is the initial start of the Schumann resonances. Okay, at the 7.8 harmonic fundamental. All right. All right. So I answered the question more or less about the plasma is an actual thing, or well, it's both a thing and a lack of a thing. All right. Ham radio connections and the Schumann reading. I'm not sure how much I can talk about ham radio connections because I really don't know that much about ham radio. I'll just tell you that. I know that depending on the ionosphere, depending on the time of the day, you can get skip. They allegedly bounce the signals off of the moon and they do all kinds of crazy things. I don't know that much about ham radio, so I really can't talk about it just for that reason. Um, Okay, what River Girl says, what I meant to ask about was the extra low resonance readings around the regular. Again, that is the regular 7.8 is a resonance. It's a difference. It's not a frequency, it's a resonance. It's the difference between two other frequencies. Okay? So, same thing with across the board with all of them. It's a difference of two signals. Now, if you're seeing a thin, flat line that doesn't vary in color, that doesn't vary in thickness, for example, let me go on our board here. I will show you. All right. So you look at this line here, okay, if you're following along with me. This line here is at 16 2/3 of a hertz. So that's approximately 16.7 or close enough to 17. That is approximately half of this right here. Okay? This is important when we talk about fundamentals, that you have half of the fundamental and then 1/4 of the fundamental. And so these are not fundamentals, but they're the fundamental resonances. Okay. Not to confuse you. I'm not confused on this. I'm not. All right. So one of the things we're looking at is the thick lines. These are our Schumann resonances. Okay. They vary in thickness, they vary in shape, they vary in thickness. That's the density. Okay. These are very dense, very dense, very dense. Okay, and then it has nothing there sometimes. Okay, now this line here at our 17, our approximate 17 hertz, stays consistent. See, it's a fine line right there. All right, now it's single color. It's in the bluish, which is of the higher blue. The light blue there is a combination of dark blue and white. Okay, so this is a artificial signal that's generated locally. There is another one at 25 somewhere here that you can't really see too well. It's kind of in and out. 25, there it is. You can't really see it too well. Sometimes you see a little bit of it right there. Okay, a little bit right there, a little there. All right, I maintain that 25 is the trains, the local trains. Okay. So the 17 is a couple reasons you can get 17 hertz. There's a few different reasons why. I'm not going to explain technically how you can get that or all of that, but that's a straight line. You can see that's 25. You can see it, the straight line at 17. You see this one here at 16, which is interesting. Okay. The Schumann resonance itself is at 14.1, approximately 14.4 maybe. So this band right here is the Schumann resonances. So we can talk about, yes, we could talk about only the ones below 7.7, but I'm giving a broader perspective on this, that these straight lines, these are dedicated frequency lines, and so that's one of the things that you want to look at. One of the things you want to look at when you're determining for yourself what it is a dedicated frequency line is going to be very thin and flat always across the board. Okay, and then it generally would stop. Or you might get these coded lines that come back and forth, in and out, in and out, in and out. But those are, we call them coded lines, but the code may be they're turning on and off the power. Electrical trains have a code. It's called the schedule that it runs on. Okay, just simple. So there is one harmonic that is 3.3. It's half of 7.8. That should be 4.5. You would see that here. Okay. 3.3 is half of 6.6. So our intervals are 6.6. The half of a harmonic is 3.3. So we have a 4.4 harmonic. And then there's another one that operates at 0.3. That's the lowest one that you're probably going to see. Now, once again, without telling you exactly where these are coming from and what all these are, just know that the Schumann resonances have a very there's a lot of local interference that comes with measuring these things. So you have to remember that no matter where these are placed, you may likely get some local interferences. The fun thing is to find someone that can speak Russian, for God's sakes, and look around, because I did. There's some of them are translated or whatever, but a lot of it's in Russian. So you go around where they have the antennas and you look and what's in the area, and Tomsk happens to be kind of the city, happens to be, it's a metropolitan kind of area. There's a lot of schools. There's a lot of schools in that general area. So some are technical schools. Some have, there's a train station nearby. There's all kinds of interferences that come underneath the 7.8. And so when people talk about, you know, the data that they're getting from these things, I like to remind people that it's very difficult to get a good clean signal that is only talking about the Schumann resonances. That said, what you're getting here on the straight lines would be a dedicated power line, and waves that fluctuate, that kind of come in and out, would be the harmonics of other waves that are interfering with each other. Okay. Well, all right. So Xenos, there is sacred geometry that's involved in all of this. Okay, different shapes, and so under accounting, math accounting, there's all the numbers are the same, digits, right? 1, 2, 3. They're all exactly the same. In math, a 1 is exactly the same as a 10. Okay, there's a value, but they're all exactly the same place. Okay. I submit to you that in the greater scheme of things and the whole rest of the functional universe, it is not God is not an accountant where a 1 and a 2 and a 3 are just more digits. That's not the value. You have 1 as a point, 2 is straight line, 3 represents your first space. 3 points represents your first space, but it's a plane. 4 represents, now you can start having dimensions. You start having the ability to have different geometrical configurations based on the geometry and how things can fit together. And so it is not just yo man, it's all groovy because it's all electric and magnetic, man. No. No. There is the height of that wave, it moves this way. Bing. The the strength of it. The strength of it moves this way. The amplitude, the quickness, the velocity moves this way. And it's quick and it's fast. Then there is the next dimension of time order. The first one, linear, is your first time. Time is the dimension. So the dimension scale is moving 10. Okay? The dimension is not a density. Density, the dimensions are these things coming in here. Bing, 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 bing. You have 10. It's of the imagination. Okay, so it rests in these amplitude spikes rest in your imagination. Okay, they're not there. They were never there. Right? You can't prove it. It moves beyond time. If time is 1 second. These have moved in and out quicker than time of a second can capture it. Right? So within the course of 1 second, light has moved around the Earth 8 times. Right? You have to think about it from a much different perspective. No, it is not all just energy and magnetism. There's a start to it, and then eventually it trails off quite a while away, right? So you have the electric part comes in first, then it transfers and it transmutes into magnetism, which, how does this relate to you? The electrics of this are what give you the headache, the sinus problems, the vertigo in your ears. That's how and what and why for this is different, that it's not all just groovy electromagnetics, that there is definitely a start and an end, and then it picks up and then it ends, and then the next thing picks up and then that ends, and then the next thing. It's what you're left with in the afterwake and the aftermath of it, the wake, the afterwake of this. So the electric part is what affects you first and foremost. It's quick, it's sharp, and then by the time you even realize you've been affected by it, it's moved on to the magnetics, which start the ringing effect. You've already had the vertigo, the dizziness that comes in that tells you something is askew. The timeline shifts are moving these here. The amplitude is the electric, the amplitude is the time shift, right? That's what that tells you is the time shift here. Time shifting, time shifts, the different scale. Like you have different musical notes, different musical scales. You have the 4/4 time, you have 3/4, there's all these different times. And everyone has to be on board with that. But linear time doesn't not exist because it's too common. No, it is very much, the linear time is very much the first dimension that you have to work through, and linear time is not the same for everyone, right? You have a clock that gives you an imposed lock for everyone, that we all go by the same clock, yet we don't. As a fact, we don't all operate by the same linear clock. Some people are much more on time than others. And everyone, I'm looking right at the audience, all 15 of you, everyone has, how do I say this? You can't say every single person, everyone, all of us, and everyone. Okay, however, I am pretty sure that everyone watching this knows someone who is never on time. Never. They have never once been on time. They are not ever going to be on time, no matter how you try and wrangle them, squeeze them into the clock, the same clock we all use. They are not ever going to be on time. Why is that? Even when they were ready, they still weren't ready. Can we go now? No. How many? In fact, I will bet you many people have had parents that have the same exact conversation. He's ready, she's not. Or she's ready, he's all over the place, right? Why can't all people operate by the same clock? Because the clock is bullshit and it's just a convenience. That is not what makes up the first dimension. The first dimension is linear time, not unified time. Okay? There isn't a universal time. There is what's in your head, these guys coming down. People feel them at different rates and at different parts of them, depending on the frequency of you that is vibrating at the frequency that these things come down at. And what happens is, if you're a low vibrating person, if you've resonated with, if you're anchored into and gravitationally attached to these low frequencies, when these high pitched jammies come in, when these high velocity charges come in and they start whacking you, you feel particularly bad because there's low low frequency vibes in there that need to be removed somehow, some way, wherever it's in there, you haven't cleared it out. That's what a lot of this is needing to ground out and charge out, change out, clear out a lot of the vibrations that we're holding on to. And you can't blame the Schumann resonance or anything of the planet doing what it does for itself when you yourself haven't made the conscious, willing effort that you're going to allow it to move through you. And that's a lot of what this is here, is for a person, you, to make the decision to let it go, to release it, to release it to the elements, release it into the water, release it into the dirt, release it to God. Or you can picture God as being here, not just in heaven out there, but a part of you. um you picture, like, that's kind of what I when I'm releasing things to the creator, the picture I have in my head is I'm picturing myself at a, a campsite. There's a big fireplace in the middle of it. Me clearing out my densities is me going, literally, in my head, in my imaginary world, I'm going to the campsite that's cleared out. There's a bright purple amethyst flame that burns. It's always burning. And there's the avatar of creator, prime source creator, there in a little log. And I sit here. I have my wrapped up uh stuff that I'm trying to clear out, my mangled sense of self-worth, my damaged pride, whatever crappy things people have said to me. And I bring it up, wrap it up like a beautiful present, and I give it to the avatar of prime source creator to discharge and disperse and dispel for me, because I myself don't know how to do that. The only way that I know how is to give it up to source. And that's one of the things that is important in this, of being able to deal with the clearing of the densities, those things that hold you intact, gravitationally intact to the lowest of the low, are the densities that I'm talking about. And this is relative to the Schumann resonances. I realize I have a much different message than most people who talk about the Schumann resonances, but if it at all relates to an ascension, to a clearing, to a spiritual growth and elevation, that is what the Schumann resonances represent to you, is them holding you intact at a certain resonance that is the lowest of the low. Right. And even more to the point, the resonances below that, they're what is there at 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. There's a stratification of a number of things that are holding you in place. And those are, these are, I don't know, this one here, like the 4.5, generally speaking, that's probably the Earth itself. But you have to wonder about this. Bradley, one of my regulars, had mentioned, he called it a tartan, uh, a tartan. Basically, it's a plaid, and you kind of get the sense of a weaving and a wefting of the Schumann resonances here at this low, these lower vibrational frequencies. All right. Okay. Oh, thank you, Christy G. All right. So, um, all right, so I think that answers the question that was proposed to me. All right, so the here what we're talking about, the lesson first part of this is the observations from the Schumann resonances, harmonics per Tomsk. All right, so this right here is something I've been working on for a while. I've been developing this over time, and these observations are, it's me trying to keep it as simple as I can, but I'm trying to explain some more advanced concepts. Simply, I don't know. There's a lot to this. I've been working on this for a while, and it's there's a few parts to it, and it's basically, I'm not going to go into all of it. I have posted, as you can see, I posted the link. There's a WordPress. I now have a WordPress site that's I'm going to be starting to publish the longer text stuff so you can get it and see it yourself. Because on a video, I'm only allowed 5,000 characters, and sometimes that's only a few paragraphs of what I have. And so, in the future, I'm going to be posting a link to the text, so you can get the whole text and not just a little bit. Um, all right, so this is again a work in progress, and as I've been working on it more, I'm going to be improving this. So basically, the introduction: Schumann resonances are electromagnetic waves which are primarily caused by lightning discharges originating from the ionospheric layer of the atmosphere, which propagate or radiate as waves at the spectrum frequency RF. They're at the radio frequency RF spectrum of the EMF spectrum of waves. All right. I might want to reword that. These resonant frequencies operate between zero point 0.3 and 46, approximately 46 hertz resonant. They're not the waves. The originating waves that create these they operate faster than the 7.8. Okay. So the fundamental waves that originate operate faster than 7.83. It's only when they start catching up with themselves that they become that first 7.8 frequency. Okay. That's what a harmonic is. That the originating waves are faster than the harmonic frequency. And it's the same thing here. That whatever's causing these is operating at a higher frequency. It's just catching the resonance of the interference waves at those frequencies. Okay. That's probably the best way to put it. All right. So the current conditions, the synchronous peaks. Okay. So when I do this, when I look at the current conditions, I am looking at the um, the line graphs here. Whenever I'm looking at the current conditions, I'm checking out the line graphs and the spectra. Okay. So the synchronous peaks are these three modes here. You have 1, 2, 3. The white is mode 1, yellow is mode 2, red is mode 3. So you see 1, 2, 3. These three modes are moving like synchronously. So they're moving like the waves look almost identical. Maybe a little different here and there, but they pretty much, especially the white and the yellow, they definitely very clearly look like almost identical. You can see the same peaks, da-ding, da-ding, da-ding. Okay, so these are in the upper atmosphere. You got to remember that these are moving faster. These are higher. The white is the peak of the amplitude. This is randomly, they colored it randomly however they got it, but this is the coloring that we have. So the white is the tallest, the highest peak of the amplitude. And then as you get closer to the ground, what's attached to the ground are the green mode of both the amplitude and the quality. This is the wave that is the biggest and closest to the ground. Okay. So this is how it comes in. The amplitude is how it comes in, perpendicular, 90 degrees perpendicular to the surface of the planet. And then eventually it starts building up with these. The magnetics follow along behind the electrics. So the quality follows along behind the electrics. The electric is amplitude, the magnetics is quality. The amplitude always goes out first. It's quick, it's fast, it's hot and heavy. And then, that's, like I said, it's 90 degrees perpendicular to the surface of the Earth. Then coming out from that are the waves, coming out in all directions, essentially, are the magnetics behind it. Okay. So this right here, when you're getting these weird time shift things, is not going to be the same for everyone because everyone doesn't go by the same time scale, by the same time dimensional senses. Some people operate, it depends on how you operate as close to the clock as possible as to whether or not you're going to be getting time shifts. If you operate by the clock, you're not really going to notice them. Okay, I think this is really important. People talk about time shifts, they don't really know what they're talking about, and you certainly can't. I'm saying you don't. What people don't know what they're talking about because you can't prove it on the Schumann resonances. Okay, there's nowhere written anywhere where it's telling you that the uprights, the first ones are the dimensions. Okay, this is just what my guides told me when I was in you know when I was 13 years old, just going into high school. Like they said, this stuff will be relevant at some point. It drove me crazy because I this blew my head. But this is what how it applies to this is the difference between the time scale and the spatial scale. Yes, they are interrelated. Yes, it is time space. Yes, but your perception is what makes the difference. It's that simple. There is nothing objective out there at all, ever. It's only you subjectively picking this stuff up and using it. There's nothing inherently worth any of this in and of itself if you have closed your mind off to it, or if you yourself aren't getting it, you yourself don't understand it, or if someone has blown a big puff of smoke up your pantaloons and have confused you as to what you're looking at. And there's a lot of that going on. People confusing you just because they don't know any otherwise, and they've listened to other people who've told them whatever, and the whatever propagates as being truth, but it's not useful to you in the ascension community, and you who are trying to raise your vibrations because you are somehow different. And the only way that makes you different is knowing that it all starts with your perspective point and not with the Schumann resonances. As I have shown you and continue to show you, they can keep you locked in perfectly well at the lowest of the low frequencies at 7.8. That's what they do. They're not here to liberate you, to ascend you. They are locking you in place through the gravity. Goes from electrics to magnetics to gravity. And with them locking you gravitationally in place at 7.8 hertz, unless you consciously, willfully make the decision to get out of that, you are stuck in an amber state because of the gravity of the resonance harmonics. And what you're seeing here, what I call mid-grade, I've been using this expression, mid-grade electrics here, okay, is this amber, like a Twinkie, sort of. The amber that's in the middle of this that holds you intact gravitationally to the low frequency resonances. It's not so much here in the 14, but here at these lower resonances, you see the electrics that are holding you intact to the density. The Schumann resonance, um, Schumann resonances are not increasing, but the density is increasing. The gravity of these things is increasing. And if you're going to learn anything from me, that should be the one thing that you're learning, that the Schumann resonances are not increasing, but their density and their magnetic gravity is increasing, and that's holding you in place. Um, and so that's one of the things when we're looking at are these modes of the different wave lengths of it, the different portions of it, that the green mode is the biggest of the magnetics and the biggest of the frequency out there. And so a lot of people look at the white because it's, oh, it's a white spike, and that, it's great. Okay, but the white, these amplitudes are momentary. And you do have to remember that they move well beyond or well within side frequencies, so that you can't consider them a frequency. They're only a velocity. These ones here, these way, I've explained this a little bit before, and I'll explain it again. This is the quality. This is the magnetic flux. So the magnetic flux times the wavelength. The basically is the size of the wavelength in kilometers. Okay, so this times this gives you the density or the specific gravity of how much pull and how much of a gravitational attraction those frequencies have for you. Okay, so if that makes sense to you, please let me know in the comments or in the chat if it makes sense. If it doesn't, I'll go back hopefully and help it make sense. But these are, these are observations on the Schumann, and these are, when I'm looking at it, this is how I'm seeing it, and I look at, that's why these numbers are over here are very important to look at. 8.12 is that's a high value for the magnetics here. All of these values here are high, very high magnetic values. Okay. The frequency. This 31 is as high as that ever goes. 26 that's as high as it goes a lot of times. These 9, that's a tall number there. That's a high number there. And that number, this red one, has been higher. But you see, like 27, 4, the lowest one is 4, and the highest one is 26. So when the floor is at this 4, or the floor of this, it's not at 0, it starts at 5. The floor of this is starting at 4.7, that's 5.2. That's pretty significant. That means it's already up there. It's already got some motion before they're starting to measure it. Okay. All right. So the daily peaks, I think I've gone over that. The daily peaks, you had one that happened somewhere around like noon. Wasn't, I'm sorry, at midnight. So the small number under here is the local time. The big number here is UTC. So I like looking at the local time because I want to know what time of the day something is happening. And it's really important when you're looking at the Schumann resonances, when you're seeing this kind of in and out pattern, that you have to remember the sun shining directly on the planet is activating a lot of these layers. So the Schumann resonances are going to be more active during the sunshine, during the sun, than at night. And at nighttime, here you start talking about this 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See how like at 6 the sun's starting to go down. This is your day here. This is a day here from 10, 8, like this, 8, yeah, 8, 9 right here. You see where it starts kind of picking up. Some of this starts picking up here and there. The lower frequency picks up. And then there's kind of a low spot here when it's all kind of moving up, and then it moves back down. This is at night, right? So it's 11, that's 10, 11, 12. This is midnight. There was an interesting spike at about 1. That's interesting. That's 1 in the morning. And then there's some other ones at night. Well, this is interesting. These are spikes at night. So these are interesting. All right. I've seen the connection to the sun pictured as a straight line surrounded by S cube by spiral. So I guess the straight line could represent the... All right. All right, so River Girl, I'm going to put it to you this way. If you take two magnets that are attracted to each other, and you're holding them in your hand, and then you let go, what happens? Those magnets make a direct beeline immediately for each other. They don't waver around, unless they're not attracted, unless they're repulsed by each other, then that straight line goes the opposite way. But that's when they picture it as a straight line, it's because that is a magnetic force. It's not like you took a pencil and drew a straight line where you could draw anything in there. It's as if you took a string and you held one end of the string and someone else held another end of the string and you pull it taut, it's going to tighten it up. All right? So that's why that's the simplest explanation of why it's held, why it shows you a straight line is because it only ever wants to move in that straight line, that immediate force of attraction. Excuse me. Okay. The spiral, how do I put it? The spiral is one of those forces that allow a plasma to move in a straight line, in a coherent straight line. A wave has a certain coherent shape that kind of keeps it all at a frequency and consistent. And the spiral is the way that the plasma, it's like a toroid kind of shape, and that is how it kind of dances through the elements. I think that's the best way to put it. That the material that's the plasmaoid material is traveling in a kind of spiral toroidal shape because it allows it to kind of maintain a constant velocity. I don't know how to put it better than that. But the original unity is a sphere. Like your first thing of over and above everything is a sphere, because a sphere is a perfect shape. So eventually things will revert back to a circular, spherical, wave-like kind of shape. Um, and it's only a relative statement that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Um, you run into obstructions in things, and part of that might be dust or whatever. All right. So you can't free yourself from being a human. You are embedded in matter. You're embedded in the physical world, and that's the wonderful part of this experience here, to me. Um, and part of what makes this so wonderful and unique here on the planet Earth is that there is this kind of, what makes it so unique and wonderful here on the planet Earth is that there is this kind of mental imaginary space that could be anything. The head on a jar, you could be anything, completely totally removed from all reality, all sense of facts and figures and data. There's part of the mind that is completely totally unrelated to anything except your own head. And then there is us humans as waves, the people as waves, as I've said, and that is, since time immemorial, people being exactly the same, not changing. They're always the same, always going to be the same. This. So we as beings here are ever kind of challenged between the immediate ability to change at a moment's notice. People as a particle, you as an individual, uh, or being stuck as the same old, same old. Okay. So when I'm doing this here, that's part of one of the things that the messages that I have is that there's the two poles, if you will. And you can be on the one pole of this is all crap and it's always the same as it's always been and is not ever going to change. Or you can be, that one spark of something different, something unique, something individual. Um, but until you are willfully conscious that that could be you, you're not going to do that. You're not going to act that way until you have cleared out the negative emotions, the negativity. We're talking about being free, and how do you get free when, the world around you has this gravity, and the people, again, here, this is that gravity, this is the gravity. The earth has its own gravity, but it also, you could, the centrifugal force states that you should be flying off of the planet. Yet why don't we do that? It's spinning at quite a fast speed, quite a, fast revolution. How are we not spinning off into outer space? Is it because of these resonant frequencies that hold us intact, that do more than just cause your brain to operate in a certain way? I mean, I don't know. But there's more to this than just these things are here to help in your ascension. Um, I who knows how the Schumann resonances started or how this came about. I don't know. We're stuck with it now. Okay, let's just assume God made it this way. Okay, fine. We'll accept what we have and where we are as being from a power greater than ourselves. Okay, but I know, I felt a lot better before I incarnated here on Earth and living in this body. There's definitely some kind of gravity that when I want to kind of escape or kind of, just drift off, something pulls me back. Something pulls me back. And that thing that pulls me back, it could be any number of things. My messages, my job, my YouTube channel. Okay, y'all are wonderful. Okay. Um, every day I'm working, every day I have work, and there's a lot of requirements of my time. So, what is it? Why can't I escape? Why can't I be free from the bonds and the bonds of the physical world? Because I am convinced I need a place to live over my head. I have a car, I have expenses, I have children, I have, obligations. Oh, if you had the same obligations I did, you'd have to work as hard as I do. And so that's one of the reasons why we can't get free. We're not getting free. That's not happening anytime soon. The Schumann resonances aren't doing it for you. If you can't consciously, willfully figure out how to free yourself of the 3D constraints, third density constraints, your physical constraints, you're not getting free automatically. Right. Now, I don't mean to sound I don't mean to sound, harsh, saying, well, you got to figure it out. It's just a general overall topic, and how you go about this is a whole nother topic and whatever. But what I'm saying is you can't be answered. Like that's you can't be, because there is so many physical constraints on a person that, and again, the what's it, Schumann resonances over here. um, they are one of the ways it's holding you intact. And so part of my thing is how to break free from the electromagnetic gravity that's holding you intact. And part of that is your laptop, cell phone, these technological means we have of staying in charge, staying in touch with each other. What would, what am I saying? Get rid of them? No, because you have nothing to replace it with at this moment. However, there is the ability in the head to read telepathy, intuition, to send messages to each other telepathically, quantum, through the quantum space. And I'm hoping that people here on my show will understand that this is something regularly I've been talking about. That when these things go down, when the power goes down, or these things go down, how do you get in touch with people? Do you just panic and roll over and die? No, you have an innate ability to picture others in your head if they are along with it with you. That is the whole trick to this, is that it is not just about you sending a message telepathically out into space, but you got to have someone there to receive it. And that's part of when we talk about the law of attraction, of getting people in your space that you can communicate with, not based in electronics and in some logical way, but based in your, how do I say this? Your native intuitive ability to send telepathic messages to people you love. Like this is a good time. This pandemic is a good time for trying out people's ability to telepathically, intuitively send messages to one another. This is one of the few good things that may, in my view, that has come from people's uh, distance from each other, is you need to start developing other ways to communicate with people other than them being physically there. The physical body is one density, one dimension, one density of your life, of your being. You yourself are multiple. When we talk about multi-density, well, that's what we're talking about. The you that exists that's not in physical form. Your physical body, this chemical body, is one single density out of a multi densities. And you have these other bodies of you that are able to expand out to touch the people around you in non-physical ways. And that's one of the things of this ascension that's a big thing to understand, is when we're talking about densities and dimensions, what do they actually mean? And how is this relevant to you? The two of them are not the same, that you operate in a density space and you operate in a dimension time space constraint. And a lot of how and why people aren't able to make those connections is because they're depending too much on the physical lower density stuff that we've all been using as a substitute for what else is out there. And so now that a lot of this, the technology is coming to an end soon enough, uh, what's on the road ahead? What else is there? If you're so used to using electronics and technology, then what? Well, either you're stuck at this low 7.8 hertz, or you start kind of making the next leap up to 6.6, to the 14.1, and these densities resonate at various parts of your body, of your person. And the lowest of these is the root chakra. Okay. So this right here, the 7.8, is the one that's operating and resonating with your root chakra. Okay. And so then as you go up, this is the fear chakra. This is the guilt chakra. This is the shame. This is the grief, the heart. The fourth density up. This is where you start talking about the heart range. And then you get into third eye territory up here. And then you get the last one up here at 46 as your crown chakra range. So this is one of the reasons why this 33 mark here is important, is because this starts getting where your third eye potentially is able to be opened. And what'll happen is people will see ghosts, they see all kinds of spirits, they see all kinds of lower density entities at that range, and it can be a little bit disconcerting. So if you haven't done the other work that comes prior to that and spiritual stuff starts opening around you, it can be a little disconcerting. So that is why, as these higher densities start opening, that is why it's important to get into a habit and a ritual of grounding. And I have talked about this before, and I have. Oh, Verd. Bradley. Hello. Yes. Nice to see you, Bradley. All right. The party can start. Bradley's here. All right. All right. So I'm going to kind of take a pause there so you can uh, kind of assimilate what I said. All right. So Just for you, Bradley, because you're a little bit new here this today. We're talking about the densities, clearing out the densities. I started a conversation talking about the introduction, and I've only gotten up to this far, like 3 paragraphs into it. But one of the things we're talking about is grounding and why it's important to do grounding relative to the Schumann resonance harmonics. And it's important. I'm explaining why grounding is important. It's important um, to know why, uh, this kind of stuff. Things that you've already kind of heard before. But that's essentially where I'm at. And I did talked about the synchronous mode of the peaks of the amplitude. Amplitude is not a frequency. Amplitude moves quicker than frequency. Um, the the quality and magnetics waves, these are frequency waves because these bounce as waves. We talked about a plasma, that this is more of a plasma. It comes out as a plasma-ish kind of uh, substance, um, which spirals out. When it kind of comes out, it has a spiraling motion to allow it to move in a straighter line more efficiently. Okay. So that's generally speaking what we were talking about. Connie Lingus. I'm reading. What does this? How does this relate to dreams? I'm not sure. I think that was probably in another. Um, a, all right, so I'm reading the comments now. I don't know if how this relates to dreams. I think that's a different um conversation. That's not relevant to something I was saying. I think. Okay. Because I don't think I was talking about dreams. What would happen if a station was positioned over the magnetic pole? I'm assuming you mean the geomagnetic pole with a wire trailing down to the magnetic pole area on Earth. I don't know. I think the wire would get. The electric lightning is that wire. You know, if you're talking about like a copper wire or something like that, and there's too many variables that I would see. Like, how would you suspend it up in the air? You know, a balloon or something. I mean, I lightning is that um, basically that wire trailing down the magnetic pole area. All right, so I'm reading the comment here from River Girl, and I think what I'm kind of getting of this is I'm basically going to say that that is not something that you really could do, connect a wire like that. But lightning is that wire. It's the discharge. Um, the word shielding is apt. The word shielding is a good thing to remember. The stuff coming from the sun is going to kill you without help from the magnetosphere and the ionosphere kind of breaking it up. It will kill you instantly. It would kill you. Right? If it hit you, the stuff from the sun, one of the CMEs, it would destroy you. It would, vaporize you. I don't know a better way to put it. It would rip your molecules apart. Just blast you. Uh, so there's a delicate interchange between the high voltage of the ionosphere, okay, and the Earth DC ground circuit, okay. So humans, for all their tough talk, are very delicate instruments and should be treated as very delicate instruments. I know we abuse other humans, we toss them away like they're a commodity and beat them up and punch them, kick them, starve them. Humans are treated a lot like punching bags and animals, but your instrument, your body is a miracle. It's a miraculous thing. And the technology that's in your DNA, the code that's allowing you to have conscious thought, that allows you to understand how miraculous this is a wonderful achievement. Humans are, in many ways, the pinnacle of evolution based on the genetic code. Now, the fact that humans do have a will and a choice, the best gift given in all of the universe is a free will to pick and choose, that humans have willingly chose to shitify each other and have turned the planet into shit, does not mean it's less miraculous. Okay. Shit itself is pretty miraculous, right? You're taking something and transmuting it in your body and you turn it into something else that is actually fertilizer. Right? Your waste product is a fertilizer that can be used to grow stuff in. It's amazing how it works. So the body itself is a very sensitive instrument and is subject to getting uh, malfunctioning based on the electrical overload of the environment that it's in. And humans accumulate, accumulate more, accumulate more, accumulate more, and don't understand the importance of letting it channel through them, like energy moving through you. Um, it's really important that you don't accumulate or hold on to the vibrations in the atmosphere around you, such as the lower vibrations of resentment and pain and hurt. And like I said, up here, this one here, this first resonance here, bing bing bing, is basically at your root level. It's a little below. Your root operates at about 10. This is at 7.8, 8 close, but it's close enough. So you can see how fat that line is and how it's actually a fairly fat enough line that it actually starts moving to 8 to 9, somewhere between 7 to 9 hertz. And this is part of this is the Earth's natural magnetic, resonance that's in here. So this right here is operating at fear. So if you ever have any fear, this activates it very much, and people walk around fear. I mean, do you know of anyone who doesn't walk around all fearful? You know, the resonant frequency isn't going to rise, it's the density increases, and then you have to deal with a more dense, lower vibration of fear. In this case, fear and shame, and then guilt. Or fear, guilt, and then shame, I think it was. Um, Dreams do allow for the opening of other dimensions. The trick to that is you have to remember your dreams. If you can't remember your dreams, it doesn't matter. Quite simply, you know. Not everyone remembers their dreams. Not everyone is meant for that. Not everyone does that. Not everyone has that space. It could potentially, but if it's not in there for you to work on, it doesn't matter. Like some people, you can be triggered into things opening and awaking. Okay, that's a thing that does happen. Okay, so you can be occasionally triggered through dreams, but what usually has to happen is an outside source has to show you that this is a thing, this is real. Not everyone looks at their dreams as being important, right? And to me, there's a combination or there's a connection between near death experiences, lucid dreaming, and the visionary state of, say, you, um, like a visionary state is if you have a dream where somehow you were floating over your body, like you have you take an entheogenic substance, mushrooms, peyote, whatever, and you have this out-of-body entheogenic experience where you see the greater picture. So these are all lucid dreaming, the dream state, um, out-of-body experiences. These are all interrelated. And so part of what is happening with the Schumann is that it is loosening up some of those. The harmonics are the horizontals. Remember that. The uprights are the dimensional scales that come in and mess up your time zones, mess up your timelines. Okay. All the timelines start with one. The logical, it's your imposition of the time space. Not everyone, again, not everyone goes by the same clock. These are different establishments of different clocks, like the bands. They have different signatures, different key time signatures that they operate on. It's the same thing with humans. That these amplitude spikes are the dimensions, the first things that come in and establish your point, your starting point. And so that's what gives you the timeline skips and all of this, is how strong the amplitude is. However, it's only relevant if you do not operate on the clock, the linear clock. I mentioned this before, and Bradley's new, and maybe people didn't quite get this, but I'll say it again anyway. Not everyone operates, even though you tell people, I will meet you at 4:30, and you're sure we're in the same, you're in the same time zone. There are people that are always late. They operate by their own clock. There are, like Lou Reed writes a song. He's never early. He's always late. The first thing that you learn is you've always got to wait. I am waiting for the man. Right? There are people that are always late. You are not ever going to find a clock where you and they are on the same page. And this is that first dimension of establishing the substrate of the timeline. Whose time are we on? Yours or mine? Are we on my clock or your clock? Right? Because I will have to say this. I don't have any clocks in my hand. The clock that's on my laptop is showing 3 hours behind what the time zone is. I don't operate by a linear time, except where I need to be in touch with someone and I need to be in communication with someone to corroborate my time and theirs, to be right there in the same time and space with them. Otherwise, I have divine timing. I'm just always there when I'm in perfect timing. Always when I need to be there, I'm there. It's because I listen. Time is another dimension for me. Time is another dimension that I have to listen for in order to be right at the right place with everyone, because no one operates by the clock. Even people that say that, they're always late. So if you don't want to be I guess the moral of the story is, if you know people who never on time, and you don't want to be disappointed and frustrated by that lack of being on time, you listen to the voice in your head, and sometimes it tells you, be a little bit late. It's okay. They're going to be late anyway. Try that. See if that works. Works for me. So that's one of the things we're talking about, is a dimension. The time scale is the dimension. These are the uprights. The densities are the horizontals. The density is the spaces. They're at 6.6 intervals, they're not octaves, they're sextaves. Okay. So I think, all right, let me read the comments here, my notes here. Yeah, oh, great. Yeah, Bradley's correct. Yeah, something walking in the woods. These are all good examples of grounding. Receiving plant hormones called phytoncides. Yep, absolutely. Yes. So, oh, yeah, that's what we're talking about. The dimensions, power of being another dimension of density. Dimension is the time scale. Density is a spatial scale. You're in a density and a dimension, a time and a space, like dreams. Okay, so they definitely exist. There is another, like if you're on nonlinear time, right? Something that happens in a dream, it seems like it took 10 years, but it's only, 2 seconds. And, you were asleep 2 seconds, but you lived a whole other lifetime in a dream. Okay. So these are different time dimensions. Okay. So in one, your body dimension, your time is moves on a second. You were out for 1 minute or 2 minutes. But in your dream, it was a much different time. Time operated much differently, went much, much, much faster. You lived a whole lifetime in 2 minutes. These are, one doesn't negate the other. These are different dimension scales. The time temporal is your dimensional scale. So your imagination is what controls the time. And if you go across the board to everyone that you know, this follows through to everyone. That time doesn't exist outside of the human reckoning, yet humans can't move forward outside of time. Please leave a comment otherwise. If you feel otherwise, please leave a comment. We can discuss it. But this is essentially what we're talking about as humans, is the embedment in linear time, right? You're born, you live, and you die. Time as a human means something significant because we're born with a finite end. I don't know how long your life is, I don't know how long mine is, but at a certain point, your life and your perception of everything is going to end. So for humans, time is a much, much, much different thing than it is outside of humans, because we are born with we are inherently born with an expiration date. Whatever it is, how long ever it is, it doesn't matter. It's different for everyone, and maybe you can change it a little bit. If you get hit by a car, maybe your life ends early, but I don't know. But humans recognize time because we move through time, and that is the first most important dimension to this, is the establishment of your perception of time. And not everyone operates by the same clock, even though we have a clock that operates the same across the board for everyone who has it. It doesn't work the same for everyone because we all have different perceptions of how we perceive time and how long it is. Time is a sense. Even though you look on the wall, you see the clock, we use it as a convenience. It's all like all the rest of the things we use as a convenience. So this is the first important element to working with the Schumann resonances, is the element of different time signatures and different time you know values to it. And that's part of what this is that these, as they move through time like that, you have a point of this on the top, and then you have it kind of fans out to the bottom. So the top, there's less than at the bottom. The bottom is where you start getting into the magnetic portion of this. The top is purely the electric, and as you start moving down, it gets into the magnetics of it, which is where it starts affecting the. It goes from the electrics to magnetics. It go from the your thoughts are electric. Okay. The electric affects your thoughts. Your head forming new memories is electric, affects your head. Your sinuses, large part of that has to do with your pineal, the calcification of your pineal. That's one of the things that gives you the headaches and the sinus problems, is the calcification of the pineal. Um, so then it moves from electrics into the magnetics, which you start feeling your heart. As you start getting into the magnetic part, you feel it in your heart. You feel it, um, erratic rhythms of your heart, because your heart fires. The heart has an electrical charge that it uses to fire the muscle of the heart. So the electrics into the magnetics, you start feeling that in the heart rate. You may feel some odd arrhythmia, depending on the frequency going from the the amplitude into the quality. Um, the magnetics definitely affect, like me, I can feel it in um, the connective tissues, my joints. I can feel it in, in like my bones itself. As the magnetics start resonating as a vibration or as a wave, then I start feeling it more, um, more on my body, my lower body. Okay. And the as it keeps going on, keeps reinforcing itself, going from electric to magnetic to gravity, I feel that this general overall kind of sense of lowness, kind of depression. I try and work myself out of it. You got to ground your way out of it, but sometimes that those feelings of depression are not going to go away through medication or through something other than you have to realize that it's not for you. It's not your depression. It's you having to move through it. So the exercise isn't, oh, this is my, I'm a victim here. The exercise is not accepting the depression from the low vibrations. It's realizing this is not mine, and then grounding yourself out of it and letting, sometimes if you have a group of people, if you have a prayer group, that might help. If you have a family that is concerned about you, and you all can take some time to talk about it and chat about it and just let things kind of, you know move the energy through you. A lot of this is how you move the energy through you, like grounding. That's the best way to put grounding. That is the best, I think, significant way to explain what grounding is that it's you taking the energy and moving it through you to wherever it is, wherever you feel it in you, to move it through you so you are not holding on to it. Um, Grounding, another way to look at it is to release an accumulated charge. Okay. The Trish, you had made this comment here, that you've heard it said that time moves faster. All right. So I think this is a fairly recent um expression that time has been moving faster more recently. That we are speeding toward a what you might call a singularity. Uh, And I don't think that's not been the case for all the time of human history. It's only been this time of, evolution, ad, uh, ever advancing evolution, that now you're seeing a lot of this stuff that's within the course of your lifetime that is changing. You know, the nature of time. I'll put it to you in another way. That within the last 50 years, I forget the date exactly, but maybe 40 years, within the course of my lifetime, the count of time has moved from 1 second being the time it takes the sun to move in an arc of the sky. It's gone from that. They don't use that as a second anymore. What it is it is the decay of a cesium atom. So time is now based on the decay of an atom. Okay, and it's not based on time itself, if that makes sense. Time used to be based on time. Now it's based on the decay of an atom. So when we talk about quantum and all of this stuff, we're also talking about physically time itself. They have the constant, this decay of it as a constant. Yet, well, it's funny quantum shit that's happening. Well, maybe the nature of time is indeed changing because you have changed the definition of time itself. It's just something to consider. Um, and I have one of on my Facebook pages early on. I talked about the nature of time, and time is changing and how they've moved it from the linear system that it used to be to the quantum kind of system of atomic decay, of how they measure it now. And oddly enough, they changed the system of how they did it, but it's still over in Greenwich, England, of where they keep these things, um, keep track of these things. All right. So, um, we're talking a little bit in the comments about grounding, and it's important to discuss this. I have mentioned it before. I'm going to mention it again. This is going to be an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing discussion because a lot of this, for me personally, I don't believe it's possible for me to talk about the Schumann resonances, what they are, without also explaining how a person can best deal with these. And there's two things. There's the natural resonances of the earth itself that you have to ground in. Those are the lower resonances. You yourself need to help ground those. And then there is um, the other waves, the other energy that is of the megahertz variety of the electronics and the wireless around you. Okay, so there's two different types of electromagnetics. Hold on. Okay, I feel much better now. I just sneezed. Thank you. All right. Um, all right. So this is one of the things we're talking about is grounding out these energies of that are around us, um, and or shielding ourselves from unwanted energies that we don't want to be absorbing in us. What's the difference? The lower frequency resonances that are closer to us and our frequency, these ones here, the Schumann resonances, start at 0.0.3 or 0.0.3, start way down here at the bottom, and then they move up to 46 hertz. Those are the ones that are closest to us. We want to ground those in. And the other ones that we're looking to protect ourselves from, I gotta find this, here it is these ones here. All right. So this is the background magnetics as measured by Tomsk, and this is the resonance in megahertz. This is mega. Mega is 1 million. Okay. So a lot of wireless, a lot of the whatever around us operates at this megahertz range, and this is what we want to shield ourselves from. So, again, we want to ground these in that are around us, and the Earth's natural environment, ground those in with us being the channel. And the flip side of that, we want to shield ourselves from these much, much, much higher frequencies that are microwave and higher range that are cooking your head. Okay. So this is basically what our discussion is on this is grounding, shielding. I gave a discussion on basic description of what the Schumann resonances are, what our peaks for today are. I have not gone into discussing about the falsified data at Tomsk. Even though I had wanted to discuss that, I think I'll have to have that as another channel for have that as a topic for another day. Okay. So, there's 17 of you here. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you all very much for showing up. I appreciate you being here today, and helping me to have a fun talk about the Schumann resonances. All right. So, where was I? All right. All right, so I went over the peaks. These are, and I have I'm going to put some of this in the description of the video, if I haven't already. Uh, And there is a WordPress link to this where I have given the entire, all of this. I only have 5,000 characters in the description. I can't put all of this in the description. So the WordPress link goes to all of this. All of this. And I know this is too fast for you to read it. I'm just kind of going through this really kind of quickly. This is a long, in-depth description of how the Schumann resonances work, of what you're looking at. This is a work in progress, but I explain as well as anyone ever is going to explain this to you, of what the Schumann resonances are and how you can understand what you're reading here. Okay, and this is just me going through this really, really quickly. I know you can't read this, but this is the literature. This is what I have written. That's over at the WordPress site. So the link is in the description. Should be there now. And so I'm just going to read a little bit more of this, and then, um, like I said, and then give it, the link is over there so you can read it yourself. All right, so all right, so let me get back up to where I was. All right, so I had explained the. All right, so I've explained what the peaks early on in the video. You can see if you look at the peaks are, again, these right here, the amplitude. This is the peaks of the amplitude. These are peaks of quality. These are peaks of the frequency. Okay, so things to consider. Oh, thank you very much. Things to consider relative to amplitude spikes and the Schumann resonance harmonics. The measurement of Schumann resonance frequency is not that of a wave frequency. Multiple waves interfering with themselves create standing waves, hold steady at a resonant frequency, which is the difference between two primary fundamental waves. Harmonics are caused from two or more waves being out of synchronization, which interfere with each other to create a resonance or harmonic frequency, which stays consistent over the course of time within certain constraints of the constants of the size and shape of the Earth, of the ionosphere, of the speed of light, and of radio frequency waves. Amplitude spikes are not resonances, nor are they harmonics. They are measured, nor are they measured in Hertz, which is cycles per second. Amplitude, which is the electrical component, comes top down from the ionosphere at about 200,000 to 250,000 volts to the earth ground. Amplitude is top down, meaning it does not rise to a frequency. So when people say, oh, the amplitude went up to 75 or whatever, it didn't go up to 75. It kind of came down to 75. Amplitude does not reach up to a frequency. Amplitude lowers down to a reported decibel power rating, which is pico electron volt decibels of amplitude. Now that is a mouthful. Amplitude spikes are not resonances, nor are these harmonic frequencies. Amplitude spikes are jolts of electricity which come top down from a much higher voltage than that which is reported by the antenna detector complex. All right, so this is my manuscript, and I'm going to just read part of it, not all of it. The commentary below is a synopsis of my research on understanding the methodology of obtaining their measurements. The search goes toward understanding the entire range of how a signal is captured, then plotted into a spectrographic form. As I have been coming into a clearer vision of what these various elements mean for us, I am revising this explanation, and I've been revising it over time. I've been working on this whole thing now for about 3 months, I think, maybe more. If there are parts that seem a little rough around the edges, it's simply because this is a work in progress. So thank you for your patience. The following description over the course of time is evolving as I engage in more discussion with details about the Schumann resonances and how they are relevant to our daily lives. I am continually integrating more relevant information related to ascension symptoms. So, when I say ascension symptoms, I mean phantom symptoms that there is no physical cause for. For example, when I say ascension symptom, ascension based phantom symptom, what I'm talking about is an example such as the ringing in the ears, which people are calling tinnitus, that is not based in a medical condition that the doctors can find a reason for a tinnitus or ringing in the ears. So, as I have said before, this is not a medical-based show. There's a disclaimer on this. I don't talk about medical conditions. These are only phantom symptoms that the doctors cannot find a cure for. So, after you've gone to see the doctor and you've gotten cleared because the doctor can't find anything wrong with you, then this is where we are talking about with ascension symptoms. So across the board, no matter who's talking about it or what it is or whatever, this is my standard of definition is a phantom symptom, meaning you've been to the doctor for this, you've been to probably a few doctors, some specialists, and none of them can find anything wrong with you. Okay. So that's what the ascension based phantom symptoms are, is the doctor can't find anything wrong with you. Okay. As I have scoured the body of literature on technical aspects of the Schumann resonances to understand what the detector antennae are receiving and what the complexity of machinery are recording, the following narrative gives the reader a summary of the important aspects of deciphering the information on the Schumann resonances and related phenomena, such as solar weather as it relates to the Schumann resonances. All right. Crackpot theory. That this period of time might be called the Great Harvest Time could be a crackpot theory, I will confess. It's very difficult to prove that this is an actual thing. More to the point, it is a theory It is a theory as to whether physical symptoms are related to this alleged ascension. Okay. And so it's one of the things I've been talking about. Love bomb from wages. Oh, thank you, Diana Hanks. Much appreciated. And Jackie, you've been here, yeah. River Girl, yeah. Hi, Diane. Thank you. No, River Girl, no. That's like the CMEs and that stuff are just way beyond humans to contain or do anything with. Um, those CMEs are your solar flashes that are going to be taking out the bad guys. That's basically what that is. I'm trying to keep this as simple and concise as possible, but those solar flares are what are taking out the bad guys, the CMEs. That's it. There isn't any magical pie in the sky thing that somehow mystically, magically going to take out only the bad guys and miss the good guys. No, no, we're all in it. All of us. If it's taking out them, it's probably doing some damage to you as well. Now, you can feed me back in the comments if you are understanding what I'm saying about that, or the Great Solar Flash, or any of this, or if that makes sense. If it doesn't, then I think that might to someone. But essentially, the CMEs are well beyond the ability of humans to deal with or to harness, and it is avarice and absolute complete foolishness of humans to um to fiddle with certain laws of nature simply because you can or you want to. The Large Hadron Colliders is one of those things. They're already harnessing that, and you're seeing crazy effects from it, uh, more so over there in the other side of the world. Um, Things you don't really hear about, but weird, odd shit happening with no physical, kind of physical thing of why it would have happened. That's a lot of that CERN. opening up portals and wacky shit. And that's what humans have to look forward to by doing something like harnessing a coronal mass ejection in some kind of way, when there's already plenty enough ley lines on the planet and their lower DC circuit. What you're talking about is shorting out the upper DC circuit with the lower DC circuit. That's exactly what that is that you're saying. Why can't we just short it out, right? Like, why don't we stick a knife into the socket of, of on the wall? Why don't you do that? Because it's a high voltage and you will kill yourself. That's why. It's really that simple. We don't do that. You're not going to do that. You shouldn't do that. You're highly advised not to, because you will destroy yourself and probably some other stuff around you. It's that simple. That the ley lines of the planet already produce enough of a voltage movement that, we're only talking about a small amount of volts that we need to power electronics, but the power system, the power grid that moves electricity from one place to another, has to send it large, long distances. So they ramp up the voltage and the amperage to get it long distances, and then they have to transform it down. So it goes from a high voltage, high tension, to a transformer, and they bring it down. So that's why you shouldn't, we should not be messing with that kind of stuff in the upper atmosphere, because it's way too high of a voltage, and you don't need it. We don't need it. Why? For what? For for human avarice, and for greed, and for, tapping into the resources, so that just to mess up the earth. That's part of the reason why you do that, is to mess up the connection with the earth and the ionosphere. But if you're not into mischief and maliciousness, it's probably best to let its high voltage be how it is up there in the ionosphere, and not touch it, right? The earth is another DC circuit that has been, the ley lines, the megaliths that are on it are on nestled on high. They're um there are vortices of energy on the planet that are at certain ley lines, certain geographical centers that hold energy from where they are. And if you tap into those, you have a way of releasing the current, but humans aren't adept at that. We don't know how to do that. So it's difficult for us to think of that way. But there is enough inherent power in the earth. You could power the majority of what you would need, um, uh, for life. Um, so that's why we shouldn't go sending a wire up there of some type to capture the energy, because it's way more than you would need. And if you've ever been hit by a bolt of lightning, then you would understand not wanting to let that happen again to you or anyone else. Um, Humans are not able to withstand that type of a charge. You don't need, you only need 15, 20 volts, to kill you if the amperage is, yeah, you don't need that much voltage to be electrocuted. Um, Yeah, so Diane Hanks, one of the things that I've been talking about is the ringing in the ears, that the non-vertigo related ringing in the ears. And this is a transduction of the electromagnetics in the environment, that the little bones and the hairs and the crystals in your ear can pick up sound, can pick up, I'm sorry, will register as sound waves that are electromagnetic in their nature. So they're not sound waves, but they're electromagnetic, like radio waves. You pick them up, you transduce them in the crystals in your ear. So this is through the piezoelectric effect. This is one of the things that I've been talking about, Ascension. The phantom symptoms are ones that the doctors can't find a cure for, can't find a cause for, The phantom symptoms are those that the doctors can't find a cause for, that are causing you a sensation, the ringing in the ears, the vertigo. These are all things that we're talking about. How is it related to the Schumann? If it is, it's through either piezoelectric, of converting an electric signal into a movement of a crystal, the piezoelectric, magnetic induction, or through ferrofluid, three ways, through ferrofluid conduction. Ferrofluid is a liquid or a fluid that conducts an electric charge through it. So you have in your ear a ferrofluid. Um, in your ear you have a ferrofluid uh, liquid. It's a fluid in your ear that conducts electricity. So that's one of the ways that you feel you are affected by the Schumann resonances. If you are, and it's not a medically related thing, how is it possible? Well, this is how it's possible, through one of those three means. Um, so one of the things that I've been talking to people about in the electric charges, how are the Schumann resonances related to anything that you're subjectively feeling? It's through, again, piezoelectric effect, magnetic induction, or ferrofluid. Okay. So these principles affect people in different ways with different types of symptoms, but within the spectrum of related symptoms, these are what I'm calling the ascension rectification symptoms. So the phantom symptoms, again, the doctor can't find any cure for them. They're related to you through either piezoelectrics or magnetic induction. That's how it works technically. You are a transducer. You take these energies into you, you transduce them through your crystals, and they are turned into a electric signal inside of you. The piezoelectrics take an electric signal and move the crystals in you. Magnetic induction is you taking a magnetic signal and inducing it into sound. All right, so this is kind of complicated, but I have talked about this before in other places, and I'm mentioning this again as a review. I feel like a broken record. I'm sure Dutch feels the same way when he talks about the same thing every single time. It's like, all right, I've been through this. This may be a broken record for some of you, but for those one or two of you who it's new, this will be new. Um, and um, so the magnetic induction works through the ears as well. That you're taking a magnetic signal through the atmosphere, and you are converting it into a sound in your ears. Okay, so this ascension rectification symptom. So what we are who are affected by this are doing is you're taking the basically the AC signal of the uh, the Schumann resonances, and you are transducing them into a DC current of the ground. Okay. So when we talk about ascension, again, is phantom symptoms. Rectification is where you're taking an AC current and turning it into a DC charge. Okay. So you're taking it from the air, you're transducing it, you're vibrating at it, and then you take that and you transmute it and reduce it into the ground. Okay, so this is the process of the rectifying the symptoms of the phantom symptoms from the environment through you into the ground. So when I talk about the ascension rectification symptoms, that's what I'm saying is you transducing and transmuting and transmogrifying these symptoms of your vibrating DNA into an electric charge that goes into the ground through you thinking about it, through you channeling it, through you being a good channel, the pure channel. You've reduced the ballast and the waste out of your life, and you have reduced your channel, your instrument, your body, to the most pure state that you can without the accumulated waste, without the accumulated attachments of the lower densities. Okay, so this is how you would potentially, you should be approaching these energies from the perspective of clearing out the lower densities and allowing them to move through you. Okay. Such inclusion to this of ascension rectification symptoms where humans act as a bridge rectifier, transducing energy from AC circuit above ground into DC circuit of the Gaia Earth body. One of these such phantom symptoms includes vertigo, or so-called tinnitus, or another is the ringing in the ears. So you have two different but related um, ascension or phantom based symptoms. One's the ringing in the ears, the other is the dizziness of the vertigo. Within the pool of content of the channel, my channel below, and I gave a link, there are a series of 5 videos which discuss the topic of interrelation between the above cited symptoms of the vertigo and the ringing, along with the EMI field reverberating around the planet's spherical waveguide. All right, so basically how the Schumann resonances, which reverberate around which reverberate around the planet, how those are related to the ascension symptoms. Okay. How would How would the Schumann resonance radio waves have a physiological effect on an individual? Okay, so how do the Schumann resonances affect you physiologically? All right. Bye, Trish. Have to see you tomorrow if you're here, still here. Oh, that's wonderful. Love bomb from Dutch. I love Dutch. He's my number one go-to on earthquakes. All right. So, from my own education and personal experience, I've arrived at a crackpot theory of how the electromagnetics and solar and Schumann resonances affect the physical body. The biggest part of my consciousness is directing me to be aware of what is being done physiologically, and that the technical knowledge without knowing how it affects biologically is irrelevant. All right. The two technical principles involved are piezoelectrics and magnetic induction, which I've described already. This is the short answer. So the short answer of how the Schumann resonances affect your physical body is piezoelectrics and magnetic induction. This is the short answer. I'm going to be making posts about how these principles actually work, and I actually have it stated below that, towards creating the physiological effects of the human body as mentioned. All right. General helpful information on electron discharge of the planetary sphere. Okay. The Earth sphere, which includes a planet herself. I'm reading the comments. Thank you. Yep, Dutch is awesome. Which includes the planet herself, the ionosphere, the magnetosphere, etc. The system uses both DC and AC circuits to convey electricity around the global electric circuit. The two, it should be three. 3 components use separate but interrelated methods of transferring electricity and electron depositioning throughout the circuits of the planet herself. Basic description of behavior is as follows. Okay. DC is the direct current circuit, generates from direct radiation of the sun to the Earth connectivity through the interplanetary magnetic field, which is they give it as a straight line, and it's basically this is velocity. It is a straight line. It's directed right to us from the magnetic planetary field. All right. All right. So this further transmits and conducts through the planet through. So this is the lower. This really is the lower DC circuit. So it's a lower DC circuit. Further transmits and conducts through the planetary ley lines. Many rocks are actually conductive under the proper circumstances. Okay. AC is alternating current circuit. Results of lightning discharges, DC sources, irradiance, or lightning. These are waves which vacillate. Eventually, they coalesce, combining into interference patterns, which we recognize as the Schumann resonances. Okay? Then you have the ionosphere. This envelope is essentially where the irradiance from our sun is turned from a plasma into visible light. Through having certain densities of the planet discharge from the sun, they are caught within the magnetic gravity of the Earth's magnetic field. This plasma type C, this plasma type C of electron charge, and charge is the plus or minus. It is an envelope of electronic potential of approximately 200 to 250,000 volts. This layer of highly charged electrons envelopes and encircles the Earth planetary sphere as a boundary layer of high charge potential, which holds intact the mass of plasma, not penetrating the magnetosphere. Okay, that's a mouthful. I'm going to have to try and figure out a better way to put this. Because as I read it, it's like I know what I mean, but it's like, all right, I'm having difficulty. If I'm on your end, having difficulty kind of figuring out what that says. This system is held intact and constant due to a number of due to the spinning motion of the planet and various atmospheric pressures of the spatially dense environment elements. Of oxygen, nitrogen, argon, etc. Okay. The Schumann Resonance Waveguide. Yeah, some people do the frequency that people find in the ringing, so-called ringing of the ears varies, and it can be a high pitched, it can be fluctuating a little bit. For some people, it's a lower kind of frequency pitch, and it varies depending on how your crystals are tuned. That's what I'm going to tell you. That you will hear different frequencies depending on the crystals of your ear. Okay. Let's see. Schumann resonance waveguide. Hi, caramba. All right. You know what? I think I'm going to save this for another time. This was a little further than I had actually intended to read, but this is all right. So, okay. So I'm almost at the 3 hour mark. I think this is going to be a good place to end shortly. Some of my regulars are here. Bradley's here. Jackie's here. Trish stops around pretty regularly. River Girl has been here before. Diane, hi, thank you. Susan, I've seen you here before. Okay, so this is where I'm going to end this shortly because I'm going to have to. It's almost 2 o'clock here, and I'm going to have to getting into 2, and I'm going to have to go to bed soon. So I thank you all for being here. I appreciate everyone for being here. I'm going to pick this up, I think, more tomorrow or the next day. I may not be doing a live stream, but unless something happens, I probably will do a live stream tomorrow. So I will pick that up tomorrow. In the meantime, let's see, where is our? Oh, this is just really quick. I've been working on the blog post. So this is, even though I didn't get to the subject at hand, this is talking about the falsified data at Tomsk, which I'll get back to soon enough too. But I don't have the time to talk about everything. And I appreciate everyone being here. And it lets me, where am I? It helps me, you being here helps keep me on track, and it helps keep me, kind of researching this stuff and keeping on track. Um, Thank y'all for being here. All right, so let me just see if there's any comments that I should get to. Okay, yes. Thank you, Diane. Yeah, please read. Go into the other previous videos. Um, the live streams are great. I kind of meander all over the place. There's a topic on those, but they talk about a lot of different stuff. So even if I start out with intending to talk about a topic, I get to it somewhat. Sometimes I get to more of the topic, but I always read the. I'm always sidetracked. If I am sidetracked, it's generally by the comments, and I try and answer the comments because it's really important. I want people to know the basics and get the basics down. Um, so so thank you all for being here. I very much appreciate everything from everyone. Go to the previous videos, comment on them, ask questions, and that gives me more ideas of what to do in future videos. We really got to kind of all be together in this. It's really important that we kind of come to some kind of understandings together. And this isn't done through politics. You know, us people coming together ain't going to be done through politics or religion, as far as I'm concerned, because there's too much material density that's in the way, and too much stuff that needs to get worked out from way before you were born or I was born or whatever. It's time now that we have to clear out our densities, and you're only stuck with now. You're stuck with now, regardless of whatever your mom or your grandmother or whatever says about whatever from whenever, however long ago. Clear through it, make it through, and clear your density. So, all right. So, on that cheery note, I'm going to play our song. And thank you all for coming today. Am I on? Hello. Okay, now I'm on. All right, so thank you all for being here today. Okay, so thank you all for being here today. I appreciate everyone and your comments, your love and support. And All right. Thus ends our broadcast. Thank you all for being here very much. I appreciate everyone for being here. Have a wonderful night, and we will see you tomorrow or soon, or the next time I do a live cast. And like, share, comment, subscribe, and keep the love alive. Thank you all very much.